Hello everyone, happy Easter, happy Sunday. If you haven't heard me in the last video, happy Easter to you all. Happy birthday to the Easter Bunny. We're gonna continue on with our WrestleMania series of how I would have booked these WrestleManias from WrestleMania 15 up until this year's current WrestleMania, which I do have all booked out, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Today we are going to be rebooking WrestleMania 20 from where it all began again, as they promoted it. WrestleMania 20 came out in 2004, my junior year of high school, which I can honestly say was not my best academic year in high school at all. But that's neither here nor there. Um, we're talking about granddaddy of them all, WrestleMania 20. So with that being said, let's get on to it. What did WWE give us on that day? There was no pre-show, no Sunday Night Heat, pre-dark match or anything like that. So they went straight to the main card, and they kicked things off with John Cena defeating the Big Show for the United States Championship. This was John Cena's very first championship win in WWE. Followed by that, we had a fatal four-way for the World Tag Team Championship, or the Raw Tag Team title, if you want to call them that. Booker T and Rob Van Dam successfully defended against the Dudley Boys, La Resistance, and Mark Jindrak and Garrison Cade. Kudos to you if you remember who the hell they were. Up next, Christian defeated Chris Jericho. This was the match where Trish Stratus turned on Chris Jericho to turn heel and join forces with Christian. They show that replay pretty much all the time when they do WrestleMania recaps. Up next was a 3-on-2 handicap match. It was a team of Evolution, Batista, Ric Flair, and Randy Orton taking on The Rock and Mick Foley. Evolution got the win with Randy Orton RKOing Mick Foley. Up next, for all the hormonal teenage boys out there was a evening Playboy evening out match in which Sable and Tori Wilson, who were the cover girls of Playboy at the time, defeating Miss Jackie and Stacy Keibler. Oh my God, Miss Jackie and Stacy Keibler. WrestleMania match of the year, folks. Greatest WrestleMania match of all time. I'm being sarcastic. Followed by that was a open invitational for the Cruiserweight Championship. It was Chavo Guerrero defending against pretty much all the cruiserweights that were on the roster at the time. We had Rey Mysterio, Billy Kidman, Shannon Moore, Tajiri Funaki, Jamie Noble, Nunzio, and the cruiserweight legend Ultimo Dragon, who, if I recall, said one of his two biggest dreams were to make it to WWE, compete at WrestleMania, and compete in Madison Square Garden. He killed two birds with one stone here, but I think he's more remembered for his WrestleMania moment being him nearly busting his ass not once but twice during his entrance. That's not a good WrestleMania moment to relive, folks. The match was won by Chavo Guerrero. I mean, you would think a cruiserweight championship match with that many high flyers would have been fantastic, but it was like 10 minutes at most, and all the eliminations were pretty in and out, in and out. I think a couple guys didn't even compete because they got counted out or some shit. I don't remember. But the match was won by Chavo Guerrero, and he retained his title. Up next is probably one of the most famous yet infamous matches in WrestleMania history when Brock Lesnar went one on one with Goldberg and Stone Cold Steve Austin was the guest referee. If you know about the history of this match, you already know why this match is infamous, and that's because everyone and their mother knew that both Brock Lesnar and Goldberg were making their way out of WWE literally after this show, pretty much. Brock Lesnar was done with the whole traveling schedule and wanted to try out the NFL, so he was gone. Goldberg was just pretty much done with it all. So yeah, I remember watching this match live on pay-per-view. I remember hearing the crowd tear the crap out of this match, chanting, "This match sucks. You both sucks." The whole goodbye chant. The only person that got a good reaction out of this match was Stone Cold, and you could tell he was having a ball just listening to the crowd tear these two guys up. And you would think that this was, I guess, a dream match in a way. You would have thought that these two behemoth guys would have been, beating the living hell out of each other, but it turned into sleeper holds and power moves, and it was not a good match. I remember that. They would have better matches years later, but we will get to that when we get to that. By the way, if you're interested or care, the match was won by Goldberg. Up next, and similar to Raw, the SmackDown Tag Team titles were defended in a fatal four-way match when Rikishi and Scotty 2 Hotty successfully defended against the APA, the Basham Brothers, and Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin, aka the world's greatest tag team, as they call themselves. Up next was the Women's Championship. Victoria successfully defended against Molly Holly, and as a result, Molly Holly had to get her head shaved bald. Now, there's also a backstory to this as well, but we'll get to that when I do my rebooking of this of this show. Up next, Eddie Guerrero successfully defended the WWE Championship against Kurt Angle. If you recall, this is the match where he slipped out his shoe and he rolled up Kurt Angle for the win. Up next was Kane versus The Undertaker. This was the return of the Dead Man Undertaker. And I can say Undertaker, one of my favorites of all time. I was super excited to see the return of the Dead Man character, and it did not disappoint. At least from the beginning, the entrances are probably made this match great, but the actual match itself really wasn't all that good. It was more of a squash match, Undertaker over Kane, because Kane buried him alive a few months back. This was just Undertaker pretty much coming back and reestablishing his dead man character to the audience. Spectacle wise, it was amazing. Match wise, it wasn't all that. And up next in the main event, it was Triple H defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Shawn Michaels and he who we do not speak of. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. It is Chris Benoit. If you know why he's blacklisted from WWE, yeah, you know why. So, with that being said, let's get into how I would have booked WrestleMania 20. This is another WrestleMania where I rebooked years later. By the way, I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video, you're probably wondering, okay, we went from 18 to 20. Where the hell is 19 at? Well, that's because we are skipping over 19, similar to how we did to 17, because in all reality, WrestleMania 19 was actually a pretty good show to begin with. It was a stacked card for the time with all the superstars they had from the top to the bottom, all big names in every single match, except maybe A Train. But it was a really good show. Another one that I watched live on pay per view from my cousin's basement. Um, and I think it's good as how it is. I don't really think I would have changed much. I can't really think of anything that would probably change, except maybe Triple H not beating Booker T 30 minutes after he hit him with the pedigree. If you know about that, you know what I'm talking about. Triple H is one of my favorites of all time, but he should not have won that match, at least not that way anyway. If anything, I think they should have gave Booker T that win. Even if it was a short title reign, losing back to Triple H at the next pay per view. If they wanted to keep Triple H as champion to lose to Goldberg, I mean, but can't do anything about that now. So anyway, we're skipping over 19. We're going now. Let's get back to WrestleMania 20 with how I would have booked the show. Starting off on the pre-show, yes, we're gonna have a pre-show match. We're gonna have ourselves a good old-fashioned Raw versus SmackDown Battle Royal because why the hell not? And I'm gonna go ahead and give the win to Chavo Guerrero because he's probably the biggest name on the roster that I didn't book on the main card. And you're probably saying, okay, but he was a cruiserweight champion. Not in this timeline. We're going to get to that in a little minute. So I'm going to give the win to Chavo Guerrero with his Battle Royal. And then just for shits and giggles for the hormonal teenage boys out there, we're going to stick the bra and panties match on Sunday Night Heat. That way you guys can do with that as you will. So going on to the main card of WrestleMania 20, we are kicking the show off with the Cruiserweight Championship. Rey Mysterio defending against Ultimo Dragon. Now, again, in this timeline, Rey Mysterio does not have the Cruiserweight Championship match and doesn't lose it to Chavo Guerrero at No Way Out. Instead, at No Way Out, we'll have the Cruiserweight Open that we had at WrestleMania. We're going to have that at No Way Out, and we'll give the win to Ultimo Dragon, setting up this match at WrestleMania between him and Rey Mysterio. and I'm pretty sure he probably would have got a better WrestleMania moment out of that than what he actually got. Now, I think for a lot of people, this is probably a dream match to see these two cruiserweight legends go at it. I know I wanted to see it. I mean, I never saw if they had any matches in WCW. And if they did, I never got to see them. But I remember in the SmackDown, I don't remember what exactly what SmackDown game it was in the PlayStation. Me and my cousin used to make each other WrestleMania cards to play with each other. And I remember always booking Rey Mysterio and Ultimo Dragon for the Cruiserweight title, and I had it as the opening match. So that would have been nice to see right there, at least for me anyway. I would have liked to see that. And I'm going to go ahead and probably still give the win to Rey Mysterio. That way he can go ahead and continue his feud on with Chavo Guerrero. Up next is the World Tag Team Championships. Instead of a fatal four way, we're just going to get a straight up tag team match with Booker T and Rob Van Dam defending against the Dudley Boys. Two babyface teams fighting in the spirit of competition. Because I felt that match probably would have been better as just a straight up tag match instead of the fatal four way that we got. Because then really think about the other two teams were more like jobbers if that's the case. I mean, yeah. Up next, we're gonna keep Christian versus Chris Jericho. We're gonna keep everything the same storyline wise, match wise, result. We still get the same result where Trish Stratus turns on Chris Jericho, continuing that storyline. Other than that, nothing much really changes. Up next, we're moving up the United States Championship between Big Show and John Cena from the opening match on to match number 4. Same thing again, same theme, same result, same outcome. John Cena defeats the Big Show to win his first championship match. Up next, we're going to keep another match, but kind of tweak a little bit. Instead of a 3-on-2 handicap match, we are getting a 6-man tag team match. It'll be Evolution, Batista, Randy Orton, and Ric Flair taking on the team of The Rock, Mick Foley, and their new tag team partner, Shawn Michaels. Because Shawn Michaels was going at it with Triple H for much of the previous year, so why not, give him oh my God, give Rock and Mick Foley a hand and take it out Evolution. Now you're probably wondering where does that leave the main event? We will get to that. Give me a second. We'll get there. We'll get there. Up next, we're gonna have the Women's Championship between Molly Holly and Victoria. Instead of having this same outcome, we're changing this up a little bit. As I recall, in the weeks leading up to WrestleMania, Victoria defeated Molly Holly for the Women's Championship. Molly Holly wanted her rematch, and they got it at WrestleMania with the condition that if Molly lost, she would have to shave her head, which is what happened. If you didn't know the backstory of this, these two women pretty much had to beg to be on the WrestleMania card, and Molly pretty much gave them that ultimatum. If you want, here, I'll get my hair shaved off. Which, in hindsight, kind of sucks that you have to do that. I mean, you would think that for your biggest show of the year, you would want all your champions showcased, especially like your women's champion. So why instead you pretty much were more focused on the women's bra and panties match. Women's wrestling was way different back then, folks. What can I tell you? So yeah, it sucks that you had to have two of your top women superstars pretty much practically beg to be on this show and have to, give them the ultimatum. Well, here, let me shave my head bald just to get on this fucking show. I mean, props to Molly Holly. I mean, she's an absolute great wrestler, but she shouldn't have probably had came to that being the only reasons they got on this card. So what I'm gonna do when I'm switching up is the match that they had on Raw where Victoria defeated Molly Holly for the title. We're gonna move that match to WrestleMania instead. Victoria will defeat Molly Holly for the title. Victoria gets the title. Molly keeps her hair. Everyone walks out happy. Next up, we're going to have Goldberg going one-on-one with Kurt Angle instead of Brock Lesnar because I got Brock Lesnar elsewhere. And I think Kurt Angle probably could have got a somewhat slightly better match out of Goldberg. I mean, this is no knock on Goldberg. I ain't going to lie. He is one of my favorite wrestlers from my childhood years. He was probably one of the main reasons I started watching I really got into wrestling in the late 90s. Because I used to watch my dad's old recording of WCW pay-per-views, which featured Goldberg. And at the time, like I said, I'm a young kid. I don't know about these different companies. And when they were gonna watch a WWF pay per view, I asked my dad, "Is Goldberg gonna be fighting?" And he said, "No, Goldberg's not on this one." And that's when I started to get the hang. Okay, there's multiple wrestling companies, not just one. But I can honestly say that even though he gets a bad rep as being an absolute terrible wrestler, Goldberg has always been one of my favorites. I'm not gonna lie about that. It has been cool. I've actually got to see him live. I think maybe I don't know if it was once or twice, but I have seen him live, and it was really nice to see one of your childhood faves. But yeah, he might get a bad rep, but yeah, I'll be honest and I'll say Goldberg was one of my favorites growing up as a kid, and it was so exciting to actually see him in WWE, and we didn't get the dream match of him and Stone Cold like everybody wanted, but it was still great to see him there. Do I think his run could have been better? Yes, I wish it did, but I'm not running things. I mean, hey, put me in the writer's chair and I'll give you gold. I'll give you gold, but no pun intended. But yeah, it sucks that he only was in WWE for about a year, but can you really blame him the way he was booked? So anyway, I'm going to give him his last match against Kurt Angle, which I think probably would have been better against Brock Lesnar, the match that they had. I don't know if I would have kept Stone Cold as the referee. I mean, Kurt Angle was pretty over as it was, and he was the guy that's going to end up staying. So maybe we don't use Stone Cold. Maybe we do. I haven't really. I never really thought about if I was going to add him on as a referee or not. I mean, I don't have it in my notes, so maybe I didn't. So yeah, of course I'm gonna. If I had to, I'll probably give the win to Goldberg. Let him get his last, victory before he leaves. I know the tradition is usually if you're leaving, you usually give the win to the person that's staying. But I think in some cases it's okay to let that person leave and get the last victory. And I think in this case it probably would have been better for Goldberg to get the win. But enough of that. Up next, we're gonna keep the Fatal Four Way for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. Now, if you're wondering why we're keeping this one and we changed the Raw one, because I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like SmackDown has always had a better tag team division than Raw. I could be wrong. Like I said, it could just be me, but I've always felt that way. Like SmackDown always had a better tag division than Raw. I mean, if you look at it then, at least the four teams in SmackDown were all pretty, big names at the time, maybe except the Basham brothers. And then the Raw tag team titles, you pretty much had two jobber teams. So I think that match would have been changed to a straight up tag, and we'll leave this one as a fatal four way. And believe it or not, it's a Christmas miracle. We're not making it a ladder match. It's just a regular fatal four way because if you know, my favorite match is a ladder match, especially a multi person ladder match. And as we're getting closer to these more modern WrestleManias, you're going to see exactly what I mean because I have one practically booked on every single one. Yeah. Anyway, so after that, now here's where the main events are going to change up a little bit. Instead of a triple threat match and instead of being the main event, we're going to have Triple H defend the title in a one-on-one match against Chris Benoit. Now, again, I know what you're thinking. Why is Chris Benoit even on this show? Now, sensitive topic incoming. If you don't want to hear it, skip over this part. Of course, everyone knows what Chris Benoit did. Of course, he's pretty much been blacklisted from WWE. They don't mention him, they don't talk about him, and for good reason. But we are not here to talk about what he did. This is 2004, 3 years, excuse me, 4 years. 4 years, 4 years. Um, we're not talking about the Chris Benoit of 2007. We're talking about the Chris Benoit of 2004. Those are completely two different people. I may get some slack for that, but that's just my opinion. Am I in any way celebrating what he did? No, absolutely not. Do I support what WWE is doing by ignoring him? I do. Like I said, it's not a question of yeah, what he did was horrible, and I'm trying not to stay too much on that subject. But we're talking about, like I said, the Chris Benoit of 2004. We don't know what's going to happen yet. We're sticking in the past. So with that, we're going to skip over that. We're going to have Triple H defend against Chris Benoit in a one-on-one match. In this timeline, the Royal Rumble stays the same. Chris Benoit wins the Royal Rumble from number one. He goes on to challenge Triple H for the championship at WrestleMania. He still wins with the Crippler crossface. The only difference is it's not the actual main event of the show. At least Shawn Michaels to compete in the match I stuck him in earlier. Moving on. And then up next, we're going to stick with Kane versus The Undertaker. Return of the Dead Man. We're keeping it all the same. Same everything. Presentation, show, match, angle. Everything sticks the same with that. Now going on to our main event. It's Brock Lesnar defending the WWE title against Eddie Guerrero. Now, I know what you're saying this match happened at No Way Out. Not in this timeline. In this timeline, instead of Brock Lesnar and Eddie facing at No Way Out, with the triple threat match that they had at No Way Out between John Cena, Kurt Angle, and The Big Show, we're going to add Eddie Guerrero and make it a fatal four-way match where the winner will face Brock Lesnar for the title at WrestleMania. Eddie Guerrero wins, bringing us to this match here. Because I personally feel the whole thing of Eddie Guerrero finally winning the big one, overcoming Brock Lesnar, winning the WWE Championship finally. I think that match, the whole presentation afterwards, I think personally that would have been a better fit for WrestleMania instead. The whole celebration, the whole victory, the everything. So I would have the match that they had at No Way Out. I would place that in the main event of WrestleMania 20 instead. If you want, everything stays the same. The only thing that's different, there's no Goldberg interference in this match because he's not going to face Brock Lesnar. So the whole Goldberg interference is erased from that match. It's just Brock Lesnar and Eddie Guerrero going one on one. Eddie Guerrero wins. Brock Lesnar leaves WWE, dropping the title to someone who deserved it. And if you want, you can still have the Eddie Guerrero Chris Benoit celebration at the end, the same way they did in real life, except it's Eddie Guerrero in the main event instead. Because in hindsight, I'm pretty sure WWE would rather have Eddie Guerrero as the main event of WrestleMania 20 instead of the other guy. So, with that being said, that's how I would have booked WrestleMania 20. Um, for being the 20th WrestleMania, it was kind of an in the middle, lower tier kind of WrestleMania. This was definitely one of those quantity over quality type of shows, as you can tell by all the multi-man matches they had. Um, but yeah, excuse me. But yeah, that's how I would have booked WrestleMania 20. What do you think? Did you enjoy what WWE gave us better? Do you enjoy what I gave you? What was better? What did you like? What did you dislike? What would you have done differently? How would you have booked it? Or would you have left it how it was? So there we are. WrestleMania 20 is in the books. Literally, because yes, I have all my notes here. I've had these notebooks of wrestling info for like 20 plus years. Nerd, I know. Um, yeah, what can I say? I love wrestling. I love professional wrestling. I have been. I always will be. Don't ever let anyone judge you for that or anything like that. Enjoy what you love, people. Enjoy what you love. So, with that being said, I'm gonna let you guys go. Enjoy your Easter, whether you celebrate it or not. Have a good day, and we'll see you with our next WrestleMania. Just so you know, there won't be anything. We're going to skip straight to WrestleMania 24 in our next video because, well, I guess we can bring it up now. WrestleMania 21 is another pay per view that's actually pretty good as it is. I really wouldn't change too much on there. Well, actually, now that I think about it, I probably would have, but we'll talk about that in the next video. WrestleMania 22, I actually did fantasy book that way back in 2006 when it first came out. And to be honest, I usually have a good memory when it comes to this type of thing, but I do not remember at all what I booked on that show, except for maybe two or three matches. That's off the top of my head that I can't remember. WrestleMania 23, we're also going to keep how it is. And with that, our next video, I'll see you. I guess we'll keep it on Sundays like we have been. So I'll see you next week with how I would book WrestleMania 24. Until then, if you haven't asked me about it, I gotta get my shit together. If you haven't asked me about it, I'm probably gonna talk about it anyway. Peace.